Well, greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 113, Underground Saints, Mike Echstenkamper. We are broadcasting live for us from the worldwide headquarters of the Gospel Underground here in Blacksburg, Virginia, and Durham, North Carolina, right next to UNC Chapel Hill, right next to Duke University, which Mike, one of my daughters, is going to apply to very soon. We might be visiting. I am here with a legendary guest, and I mean that in the purest sense of the word. I'm here with Mike Echstenkamper. He is a Hall of Fame baseball player from the University of Ohio Bobcats. Mike, I learned this today, that you have the highest batting average in history of the school. Is that still 424 holding up in the record books?
I think I might be second.
Second. Okay. Well, first in our hearts, 424. New York Yankees farm system. Married to Kim for a really long time. 4 kids: Elisa, Amy, Christy, Todd. He did all girls first and the boy last, like we did. Grandkids that play soccer. We're old now. UNC campus legend, the God man, the Bible guy, Mike X, my friend, and one of the people that most exemplifies the title Underground Saints. He's a favored son of Gloucester, Ohio, resident of the late great planet Earth in Durham, North Carolina, cancer survivor, ringer in pickup basketball. He will hustle you in racquetball. He's my friend, Mike Echstenkamper. Mike, thank you and welcome to the Underground.
Oh, Reid, man, thank you for having me. But what an introduction. How'd you get all that in such a short time?
Well, I'm trying to honor someone who in my life and our family, Mike, you are very important to us. And so I wanted to have fun with you, make you laugh, because I know you're super comfortable with having a hype man. So I wanted to be that for you as we started out today. But hey, how about you share us a little bit of your story, your bio, so to speak, without all the nonsense that
I loved it. Brings good memories. Raised in Gloucester, Ohio, really small town, Southeast Ohio, and, kind of a real poor area. Grow up, that's all I knew. Love my family, good family, and, but didn't know anything about God. I think, before I knew God, by the grace of God, he let me get a scholarship to Ohio University, which, I probably was the last one to sign out of our class. All the write-ups for other players, were paragraphs, and I had a little itty bitty one. And honestly, I felt kind of out of place and naive and like, hey, can I play here?
Yeah.
And was actually during batting practice in the fall, my freshman year, that I first heard about Jesus during practice.
Wow.
The teammate said, Mike, hey, what do you think of Jesus Christ? And I have no idea.
You said he's not a cuss word, I don't think, but what do you...
And so that night he told me a little bit more of who Jesus is, and I just thought, it just doesn't make sense. So, I'll just go do my thing. And so what I did, and what I was good at, when I didn't understand something, I just kind of hide or avoid it. That's just, hey, that's good for you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Year, my girlfriend broke up with me in January, which she made it sound like a mutual thing, but it wasn't. And it just crushed me. I was angry at the world. I was ticked off. And then I made one of the poorest baddest decisions of my whole life. And then I wanted to know, is it possible to be forgiven?
Wow.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was through another teammate who talked to me some, and then eventually heard about Jesus, like, this person can actually forgive you. And I thought, you got to be kidding.
Wow.
He really can?
Yeah.
But I was scared to death.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about this God, but I know I need forgiveness. And so junior year in April is like, Jesus, if you can take the mess I've made out of my life, and if you can do something, okay, go ahead.
Wow. And did you hit 424 after you were forgiven by God?
Good thing it was that season. So it was all coming together. It's like one of the worst points in my life was also athletically one of the best. And
wow.
Through teammates, that's where, God and sport just had such a good marriage for me. That's where I heard so much about who Jesus is. And then when the Yankees drafted me like a couple months after that, and the guy that I became best friends with was the guy we named our son after, Todd Demeter from Oklahoma City.
Wow.
And he was a real strong believer, and I was like a 2-month baby old Christian.
This was in minor league baseball?
Yeah. And that's so
like in Pawtucket or something like that, or like some small.
Well, in Oneonta, New York. Was the first place. Well, Fort Lauderdale, Oneonta, and then the next year was Greensboro.
Oh yeah.
And the third year was Greensboro. You know, you always want to keep moving up.
Yeah.
In God's plan, you know, it was back to Greensboro, but that was, you know, part of how we ended up at North Carolina, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So you went from minor league baseball to sports ministry.
Right.
And that was obviously from a baby Christian, you kind of grew a little bit probably in that season. And tell us a little bit about that process of how you ended up, because Mike works with Athletes in Action, which is part of Crew Global, the artist formerly known as Campus Crusade for Christ International Sports Ministry, does many things with campuses, but also pro sports. And Mike, I met at UNC, so Greensboro to UNC. Tell us about that.
I think with seeing, you know, people's love for sport, my love for sport, but also how God has used some of my teammates with the Yankees in other people's lives, and then back at Ohio University, because I ended up graduating. It's like, wow, you know, God can take like what I kind of like and what I'm kind of good at, and he can use that as a bridge into other people. Like there's other baseball players that need Jesus. There's other people.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like very natural. The kicker though was my third season, you know, Kim and I were dating, and hey, we didn't want to be separated by another season. So we said, hey, let's go ahead and get married actually during the season. Right. You know, which we thought was a great idea.
So you can pay a lot of attention to your newlywed wife, right?
I think the Yankees thought that was a great idea. Hey, so 4 days before our wedding, I get released.
Wow.
So I call Kim. Hey, Kim, I got some good news. I got some bad news. You know, the good news is I get to come home a day early.
Yeah.
The bad news is we have no job.
That's right.
And that's how we started our marriage.
Wow. And was that like a piece of paper in the locker kind of thing, or was it like a GM? I mean, like in Moneyball, where like Brad Pitt's firing you, you got a guy, Mike, I gotta let you go.
I'll let you go. It's on your hotel door. Hey, Skip needs to see you. You know, my outfield coach walked me into the manager's hotel room because it was an away game.
Oh wow!
Like in South Carolina, it's like, well, here's your options. You know, and none of them are good.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, Lord, Kim and I are going to get married. You're going to have another team for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that's the direction that you're leading us in. I'll just get picked up with another team. And then, frankly, Reid, after a month of being rejected, it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, pro baseball is slightly competitive with the amount of people that actually get to do it, right? It's like you made it way further than most ever with Dream, right? Yeah.
Especially in the Yankee organization. I mean, every year we won our championship because our organization was so loaded.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, God, I guess that dream is kind of died.
Yeah.
Like it's gone. And my identity obviously was tied a lot to it. And we were in Greensboro at the time, so we got temporary jobs and just worked that summer. And we just eventually felt, you know, through talking with people, it was always people a part of our growing. It wasn't just by yourself.
Yeah.
At Ohio University and with the Yankees. And then it's like, Lord, we feel like you're leading us on staff with Athletes in Action. And so we took the steps of faith to see that happened. Our first assignment was Indiana University for just a semester. And then we were at Fort Collins, Colorado, and the president of our organization said, hey, Mike and Kim, hey, I got something I want to share with you. So we had some pizza with him. Hey, there's 5 choices for you. I want you to go start a ministry at one of these choices. Virginia Tech, Tennessee, North Carolina, Florida State. You pick one.
Wow.
And because of the connection through Greensboro, and Kim's mom had moved from Ohio, it's like Kim said, Mike, North Carolina is like only an hour away.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you look back, and Reid, I know you and I have talked about this, and you're just a young pup. But one of the really cool things about being a believer when you start getting older is you have more fingerprints of God throughout your past, and you can start linking. Man, Lord, you took us there. You did this. You brought this person in. Oh, that's why you did that.
Yeah.
Kind of just makes you really grateful for God's sovereignty.
Well, it's unbelievable because, like, I'm listening to you and thinking of today I'll get to go tell my son that my friend Mike, he'll listen to this. What's up, Tom? That you got the Moneyball knock on the door conversation with the coach. Mike, I got to let you go. And because of that, my son is in the world. I mean, these things are all upstream from lots of things that led you to North Carolina, that led us to meet, that led me to meet Christ through your witness. Met my wife at UNC. My son exists now from that covenantal marital union. It's amazing when you think about all the minutia that we're worried about, we're stressed about. We don't know what's going on. But, when I'm a young, almost 49-year-old, you're right. You've seen lots of things, right, in your story, even that seem small, that then downstream expand into this beautiful picture of what God does.
Yeah. I love how you explain that, Reid. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Well, in terms of North Carolina, you've been there 30 years. Is that right?
38 years. Mm-hmm.
38. Oh, my gosh, almost 40 years. Almost, yeah. So that would make me like 10, 11 years old when you got there, I guess. Well, I guess I met you when I was probably 18, 19-year-old, so that's not...
yeah, you're a freshman, yeah.
I know, it's pretty wild. Mike, let's move to UNC. You were there a while. Baseball guys need the Lord. Funny ear wrestlers guys that
yes.
that cause a lot of trouble downtown in North Carolina maybe need Jesus as well. I thought it'd be fun for us to just share a little bit about how our impressions of like when we first started meeting or interacting from both kind of perspectives, because I remember it pretty well, and so I'd love to hear your recollection of how that went.
Well, I've love wrestlers. I love wrestlers because they're passionate, and they might not be passionate about Jesus, but they're passionate. And I remember watching a wrestle off, Reid. I think it was in Carmichael Auditorium.
Almost in the dark.
Almost in the dark. Yeah, I remember watching that. And I was trying to get more inroads with some teams, and you have to be wise when you're around coaches. Do they want you around? So, you're just trying to kind of be a fly on the wall a little bit. I remember watching you. I think you lost.
I did lose. This was my true freshman year, and there was one of my best friends named Dave Leonardis, who was also a true freshman. He was supposed to start that year. I was supposed to redshirt. He got mono halfway through. I cut 18 pounds in 4 days and wrestled all year at 142 pounds. And then he did not, the NCAA is much more generous today. They did not give him a waiver. So we had to rank off for the position at the very end of the year. So get this picture, guys. This wasn't like a big wrestle off for everybody. It was just for me and Dave, 2 out of 3, literally a full mat, though, in the corner of this where Michael Jordan played, Carmichael Auditorium, almost in the dark. And so not a good day for me. I think I always lost about 5-2, 5-3, 4-2 to Dave. And so I lost that year after that.
So that's what I remember. And then I don't know how much time went after that, but the baseball field, Boschhammer Stadium, beyond right field, there's some sidewalks converge, meet from Avery Dorm, going to Ehringhaus Dorm. And I just happened to be walking, and then you happened to be walking, and we could just kind of met, like that little intersection.
Yeah.
I just, hey, and I'm a pretty shy person, actually. I'm not, it's just a little harder for me to meet people. And I said, hey, I don't know if I know you. I think I knew your name, but hey, I saw you wrestle and, kind of felt bad for you. But we just kind of interacted, and Reid is one of those moments where I just think God just helped some words come out of my mouth. I think I asked you a question, something like, hey, just where does God fit in your life? Or something like that. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then I think asked if you'd be interested in getting together, and you actually said yes. But frankly, if I would have known how stinking smart you are, I don't know if I would have shown up. But at least that's my first impression. So we can go more from that.
Yeah. I remember, I think that same year, Bill Lamb, who was our longtime UNC coach, I think he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, let's just say a wonderful character of you've known Bill Lamb through many, many seasons of his life, who's now, confessing Christian guy, and let's just say probably wasn't, or at least he would say, I tried that, but God was baiting the trap with women, so I didn't, that's what he told us when we were in the wrestling room. And, he actually allowed you to speak to the team that year, I believe. And I remember you came and talked to our team, and so I remember asking a kid, I think Jody Staler, who was from where I grew up, Virginia, kind of a wild kid and really good wrestler. And I was like, who is this guy? He goes, he's the Bible guy. And then I think Greg Randall, who at the time was like the only kind of open Christian on the team, said, yeah, he's the God man. I was like, well, the God man is Jesus Christ. No, but you kind of had this reputation of being the Christian guy or whatever. And so I remember looking at you just thinking, man, this guy looks really nice. That can't be real. And so I didn't even write in on a feedback card. I just turned it in blank. I was like, I'm not interested in this. I didn't grow up in that stuff. And like, I certainly don't need the Bible guy around. And so when I saw you behind the baseball field, we had a training table back then, a athletic dining hall, that they canceled that in sports. And now it's back. It's like back in a ridiculous way. I think everybody's got the Ritz-Carlton dining hall for athletes now, but we just built one here. It's unbelievable. So I remember coming out of the training table and walking, and I was on this path, and you were on the path, and I was thinking, oh no, there's nowhere I can go. Yeah, I was really nervous about it. Not that you're such a nice person. I didn't know you at the time. I was like, oh, the God guy's here. Oh, what do I do? And I remember you just saying, hey, I saw you wrestling. You're getting to start some as a freshman, and I heard you were studying physics or something, and not a lot of guys on the team are doing that. I was like, yeah, ain't nobody doing it on our team. And I remember you asking me something my recollection is very clear, same words that you just said. Hey, where does God fit into all this? And I was like, man, I don't even know. And you asked me, hey, can you want to get together and talk about that? And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I agreed to meet with a religious guy, and what am I going to say? And I really did have kind of not good intentions. Like, well, he probably believes in this mythology. He's probably a little misunderstood in life. Maybe I'll talk about inflationary Big Bang theory and, maybe set him straight. But I was really nervous. Right. And then you came by the dorm and met with me. And so, yeah, that's my remember of that same day.
Reid, that's really something. I remember Coach Lamb told me when he introduced me to the team, I was scared.
Yeah, he's an intimidating person. Yeah.
He said, I've watched this guy for 9 years. Yeah. He didn't allow me to speak to the team for 9 years. Yeah. That was the first time. And I forgot that was when you were a freshman.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And I do remember, Reid, showing up to your room, and I think you had probably mentioned that was probably one of the few times in your life where you actually didn't say much.
Yeah.
I mean, you just didn't say a whole lot.
I didn't have anything to say. Yeah.
All I remember is like, hey, I'm just going to try to share the gospel with him, because that's basically all I really know. I mean, that's why I said if I would have known how smart you were, Reid, I would have been freaked out. So I think we just kind of talked about God's love and our sin, and Jesus is the answer, something like that.
Yeah.
And, left the room. I don't know what you thought, but it's like, and I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know your background and things you thought about. And you know what? I told you before we got on, your story is just one of the grace of God stories of like, this wasn't planned. This was the Lord, and everybody's salvation is the grace of God's story, which is beautiful of Jesus. It's like, oh my goodness, you can really touch a person, and you can really draw a person to yourself. But what encouraged me was like, I don't have to actually have all my ducks in a row to talk to somebody about Jesus. Like, this is guy, I didn't even really know this guy. Yeah. But God, he uses us like that. And then he uses us with friends and family and sometimes strangers. I mean, it's just cool that he can figure that out.
That's
You
right.
don't have to try to figure that out.
That's right. We get so worried about what everybody's going to say or think. And I remember like hearing, these basic biblical principles and just knowing that God was capturing my life. I just knew it. It was a spiritual experience. A lot of people, because I'm into Christian thought, I'm into apologetics. Thanks to you, you got me into that later. But I didn't have any questions. I just knew if there was a God, and that if I was a sin, and if there was a God, I certainly was a sinner, right? I knew that, and that I would be guilty, and I needed, not just would be nice to be forgiven. I knew I needed that. And if Jesus provided that, I just believed, and so it was a real spiritual thing. I remember even running to practice because we could go behind some dorms from way back there. You could run behind all these dorms to get to over Fetzer where we practiced, and I just remember sprinting, just feeling so alive, so grateful, and so different. And then after that, I had 100 million questions about everything. And I even think you said, you know what, you'd really like apologetics. I was like, I ain't saying sorry for nothing. I'm a Christian, And of course, I didn't know what that meant or anything. That it came from a Greek word that meant to give a reason or a defense of your faith. And you started handing me books and things, and just being very patient. Because after that, I had a really hard summer. Probably the summer in between that. Because that was like late. That was, because, that wrestle off was like late, right before ACCs, and then all that happened. And I went home. I think it was just weeks probably before. So we didn't really have time for what we would call now follow up or anything. And so I went home and I just ran hard, man. I ran with all the old guys. I tried to be at, wrestling camps and stuff. And I remember I got in a lot of fights that summer and was just really pushing the envelope in a real unhealthy way. And I never felt bad for doing stuff before, but all of a sudden I felt bad. But then I just that made me angry. And then I just kept having a rough summer. I think even that was the summer you guys probably can't see this on my arm, but like I burned myself to beat a baseball player actually in a competition where this is brilliance of young athletes who are like 19 years old, that we're going to hold a fork on a stove until it gets red and look at each other and see who will flinch and stop first. And, I won that, but I think I came back that year and you were like, what happened to you were like jeepers or something. What happened? Mike always used these words, because he wasn't cussing or anything. He would always like, golly jeepers. And one time we were riding to a retreat and he's with a bunch of guys in the car. He's like, does anybody have to go TT? And obviously he had little girls at home at the time. So I totally get it now. We're like, no, nobody's got to go TT. But I remember you seeing that on my arm and thinking, what is this guy into,
That was so funny. Yeah, I remember the TT story. My kids got on me. But, coming back though, the Lord he really grabbed you. There's some other trouble, and you weren't sure if you're going to be able to stay on the team, and coach was trying to decide. And I remember you said you just went to the wrestling room by yourself and just sat down and just like, Lord, I don't know what happened at that moment, but I was really glad that he didn't kick you off the team.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that, Mike, is a lot of my teammates thought like I got in some trouble, so I went to God, and which is not true at all. God came for me, and then I went into a tailspin a little bit, and partially because I didn't know what it meant to follow him. I knew I believed, and then I had a really hard summer. This isn't super public, but I beat a guy up, right? Being a tough guy up on Franklin Street, and that's where the trouble happened. And I remember I met with Coach Lamb, and Coach Lamb had this kind of, when he'd get mad at you, I don't know if you ever saw this with him, like he would get like spit that would connect his lips on the sides like this, and his lips would quiver and shake. And this happened all the time because he'd be mad at a wrestler for, not getting off bottom or something, And I remember him like telling me like I was going to end up back at ODU or something, and that he didn't know what he's going to do with me. And I remember trying to call my mom and, talk to somebody, and I remember wanting to call Greg. Greg Randall got on a team that we called Woody, not after the Buzz Lightyear buddy, but after the guy on Cheers. It was kind of this goofy bartender, and I remember wanting to talk to him because he was a Christian. And I remember sitting by myself in the wrestling room, not knowing what my future was going to be, and realizing that I needed God to help, not just say a prayer and be forgiven, but help me learn way to go in life. And so, I know at that point, and, you know, I just started asking you, hey, teach me some stuff, man. I need some stuff. And I remember going through some basic, you know, worksheets and things. And then I won't tell anybody, but you gave me a Navigator's like blue notebook thing the next year that I just devoured that because it was a little deeper, you know, than the crew stuff. And I just remember just taking off and growing a ton. But I mean, like, and I even told my parents, like, no, I didn't become a Christian because I got in trouble. That was not even close to true. I became a Christian when I heard the gospel. And then certainly, you know, I realized beating dudes up and stuff isn't the way to go in life. I mean, yeah, I didn't need Jesus to figure that one out, but I remember that I realized if I was going to be a Christian, I needed to learn what that even meant. And so there was the mystical aspect of kind of being born again, I suppose. And then there's the aspect of discipleship or really learning what it means to have Jesus lead your life. And that was exciting. That was new. I mean, all kind of new stuff. I mean, Mike's a guy that, you know, I don't know where I came up with this dumb idea, but I thought, like, if you're a Christian, you should pray, but you should never pray for yourself, right? I had this idea like, well, that would be selfish. Why would you do that? And so Mike was the one that gave me permission to pray for myself for the first time ever. And it was for Casey Monroe, who I've married, you know, over, you know, 25 years now. So just silly stuff like that about how to pray, and it's okay to pray. You know, most people are like, oh God, give me a boat. You know, I was like, can you do that? And like, oh yeah. And so Casey, you know, got into that prayer. That plane got landed, and man, and Mike was great for our relationship too, just helping us over that time we were in college. And I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, we were in Shoney's one morning because we had stayed up all night long and didn't sleep, and we weren't fooling around or anything, you know, but we were just like exhausted, and we were like eating breakfast because we stayed up literally all night. And then you walked in, I was like, well, I wonder if he knows we were up all night in my dorm room, because I was learning about, you know, what to do with women and not, and all this kind of stuff. And super fun season.
Well, I love hearing more, and I mean, since it was like it was yesterday, though.
It really does.
I think if you sitting in that wrestling room, and Kim and I were talking about this morning, of, you know, when God is speaking to us, you know, through people or circumstances, His Word. In Hebrews 4, it says, "Don't harden your heart."
Yeah.
Especially, I was like, oh my goodness, think of the times when we've actually not really wanted to listen.
Yeah.
But then there's the grace of God times where we actually listen. Yeah. And it's like you like, okay, Lord, I really need you more than just fire insurance. I need you daily. And the thing that I remember, and this is not just a memory, this is you, Reid. You don't need a lot of motivation. Like Reid Monahan doesn't need a lot of motivation. Reid, you go after things. That's your personality, man. That's one of the reasons I love wrestlers. Yeah. You know, you just wanted to go after the Lord. And frankly, I don't really feel like I taught you much. It's like, basically for Reid just get out of the way, and God's he's gonna show Reid, and you love the experience of a church that not all the people look like you. Yeah. I mean, you're wanting to find out, Lord, what are you about? You know, your people, your graciousness, and, you know, Casey. You know, it's just, again, it's so neat to look back. But, you know, one of the things I'm really trying to live by now, Reid, is, and I heard this from a friend in Winston-Salem, is make your dreams bigger than your memories. You know, make your dreams bigger than your memories. That's how to live all the way to the end. Yeah. You know, and that's what I want.
Yeah. Well, you're teaching me right now, Mike. So I strenuously object to the fact that, like, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about our friendship is that we are very different in the sense that, you know, I don't, doing team meetings on campuses or meeting the AD or the head football coach, it doesn't make me nervous. It gets me excited, you know, and you're sharing like, oh, I was really nervous talking to the team. You're going to say, I didn't teach you anything. But Mike, the reality is for me, like you taught me and showed me that, and that's something about, I think, Christian mentorship, discipleship that's super significant, is that you show people things as well as teaching them. And I still remember, like, you in the basement of your one of your houses, scraping up this. Remember that impossible floor that we tried to get up, and then.
That.
And
you were there until like 4 a.m.
Yeah, and the carpet pad was like chemically fused to the concrete or something, and I remember, like, because I was fascinated because, one, you were still married. You know, my parents ended up splitting up later and had a real rough marriage before that. So I remember just scraping the floor and you telling me, oh yeah, we've had a hard time in our marriage. I'm like, no, come on. And you were just honest and authentic about, like, yeah, we're committed to marriage. We're not like hitting eject, but yeah, we've been to counseling. We've worked at this thing. And I remember just you being a father and, your kids, being kind to them. And I didn't see kindness, right, from men. My dad was a, pretty angry guy when I was growing up. And then my wrestling coach, who I do thank God for him being him too, because, like, he's one of the guys that influenced me as much as anybody. He was very tough. And so I really thank God for, like, seeing kindness. I said this to Tommy yesterday. I haven't met Mike yet. I want to meet him. And I was like, well, you need to meet him. That we need to fix that. I was like, but yeah, if you had a dictionary that said kindness, for me, I put Mike's picture there. And you may not even think that about yourself. My impression of you was like, you just had this genuine kindness that extended to others and allowed me to kind of fluster around and figure things out and just be a kind guide and a good friend who I could trust. And then even, like, how to date and how to get married and all that kind of stuff. And being involved in our wedding. It's just life-changing for me. And I say this to people all the time. God's wisdom is, if I had showed up to talk to me about Jesus, it would have been a big argument probably. But God sent Mike with a disarming character that was clear about the grace of God, clear about my sin. It wasn't like watered down, like, oh, God loves you and you don't need to change, so that I could hear. And then I just think we always kind of enjoy each other because of that difference. And you've been in one place for 38 years, and I think every 4 to 8 years I'm doing something different, it seems like. I marvel at that. Wow, why can't I be somewhere for 38 years, Lord? Is that a problem? It might be a problem. It might just be the way things are. I don't know. But
yeah, and then I marvel at you. Like, oh man, Reid and Casey, they get to experience these things. And I mean, I know you love being in Blacksburg right now, but you've had so many different experiences. And I was just telling Reid, some of the things that he's written, especially on sex, and just is still being used, even last week, with people. So I love who you are, your heart for the Lord with your family. And I'm just really glad that he spent a little extra time giving you I don't know if it's more intellect, but I love that you write stuff. And I love using it, passing it on.
Yeah. That's kind, Mike. It's one of the really fun things about our friendship is that we went from being, you being my mentor and kind of leading me to the Lord and helping me grow up and, talking to me when I went to, crazy churches where people were running around and stuff and speaking in funny languages. And I remember calling, what is this stuff? I mean, you just very patiently answer my questions through all of these things. But the fun thing is that then we became colleagues, so to speak, when Casey and I went on staff with Athletes in Action and were able to spend 8 years in that ministry, which I thought I'd probably never leave. I loved everything about it, right? And even now that I'm chaplain for the Virginia Tech wrestling team, I'm kind of still doing that sort of thing. But I remember just what a wonderful thing it was for, doing retreats together and you showing up with UNC people and us showing up with Virginia Tech folks. And I didn't know that was one of your 5 options. So we opened that campus up years later, which is kind of even another fun fact. But
that's really cool.
But working together was just an honor. And I'm glad, like, Mike you are now a regional director, right? Which I was a regional director before you, which is ridiculous. And that's only because you said no forever to being a regional director. And so, because one of the things I learned from you and still learn is the value of actually, doing the deed, so to speak, staying involved with people. Our organizations need layers and managers and things like that. I get that. I'm glad you're a regional director now, but your persistence in one place with communities of people, like even a couple of years ago when I came back and spoke in the baseball facility, just seeing like, wow, this is so like if any of you guys are supporters of Mike and Kim's ministry and you happen to listen to this, the continuity of this family and their impact on eternity by being at Carolina. It's just wonderful, wonderful to see, and I'm glad to be a recipient, an alumni, partner now in what you do, and glad you're leading other staff. That's really great.
Thank you, Reid.
Yeah,
very humbling to hear that.
Well, Mike, we both realize that. I think you told me a story one time how you fell and cut yourself because some guy gave you smoke some weed or something. Is that was you, right? Like some
that
guy?
Was me,
yeah. Like you told me the story one time.
The first and only time I ever tried weed was, and a van door flew over because it was it was a cold, icy night, and the door was stuck. So I tried to go up close to it. This was when I was a sophomore in college, and somebody on the inside just kicked the door open, and it flew open and just nailed me right in the forehead. And
of course, you guys laughed because
all went to the emergency room, and I'm just getting there stitched up and thinking. And that was the only time I'd ever tried.
Your experience with drugs was not a high point. Let's say, where would we be without the grace of God? Mm-hmm. Right? This is. Over the years, obviously, I took to reading. I was a math science guy, but really took to philosophy and theology and apologetics and, comparative religions and these things. My parents even told me, hey, you need to read other religions before you get to in this Jesus thing. And I did. And that made me more of a Christian than ever. Unique, right, in the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, the teachings of the Bible, is this idea of God being both gracious and loving to all he's made, but still having a standard, right? Like that we fall short, but it's not like, hey, well, you better do the 10 Commandments better if you want to get in, or you better obey the 5 pillars, or you better take this noble path and keep to it. If not, you're going to end up, reincarnated into a chicken or something. That God is gracious, that he doesn't see our faults. He forgives them. That in Christ, right, that we have this newness of life, and then hope, right, strength for the day, as the hymn says, hope for tomorrow. Where would we be without the grace of God?
Not here.
Yeah.
I know that, Reid.
Yes, not here.
I love just how you're talking about the grace of God. I see, I'm more of a sinful person than I thought I was and even think I am. But instead of, Jesus pointing his finger at me and saying, Mike, you're just such a screw up again.
Yeah.
It's more of as his child, it's more, he's got his arms open saying, and so now it's like, I actually want him to let me know my sin in my heart so I can actually just confess it and not, like I used to do, not hide it or avoid it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm a different person because of God's grace of just, Jesus, he cares for us so much as his child. And, people can tend to transfer their view of their earthly parents, specifically their father, onto God.
Yeah.
And just assume, well, that's the way he is.
Yeah.
And we need our mind renewed by his word and different conversations and, experiences that he walks us through. I remember it was 8:45 at night on a Wednesday night at Duke Hospital when the oncologist said to Kim and I, I'm 95% sure you have cancer. I just don't know what kind.
Yeah.
As we had 4 small kids. And that began our journey into the world that you don't volunteer for,
right.
You go in the cancer world. But I'll tell you, if he would have had in his drawer, open his drawer, said, oh, by the way, let's just say, by the way, this pill can cure what you have. Would you be interested?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was a year of chemotherapy and radiation
Yeah.
this body went through. I would have said, yes, I'll do anything for that antidote.
Yeah. And
So
Kim throwing out everything in your house and getting all new things in your house and you being a good wife.
Poor Kim, she worked so hard.
Yeah.
To try to keep me alive. That's, but by the grace of God, he lets us see our need for him in that, no, I'm not just a good guy. I'm actually far from that. I'm actually very much of a selfish, sinful person. But to be diagnosed with something, it sounds terrible, but it's actually a really, really good thing if there's a cure for it.
Yeah. And
that's the beauty of Jesus, is he's the cure for the thing that we can't fix, and that's our sin problem.
That's right.
He's wonderful at coming at us. And one of my favorite verses all time is John 6:44, where nobody can come to God unless we're drawn to him by the Father, by Jesus. And Matthew 11, where he's saying the same thing, but come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. He said, I'll give you rest. Yeah. Like, what an invitation. He said, learn from me. I'm gentle and lowly of heart. Yeah. One of the only times he actually spoke about his heart.
Yeah.
Described it. He said, take my yoke and learn from me, and I will give you rest for your soul. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you got to be kidding. Yeah. He doesn't just forgive us of our sin, but he wants, and he is. He'll come into our life and he'll start making it brand new, like we never knew we could have this.
Yeah.
So, yes, the grace of God is just a daily, like, Lord, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe it. You are who you are.
Yeah.
In our lives.
Amen. That song by the Gettys, In Christ Alone, where it says, no guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. This is the reality for those he draws to himself and those who trust him, because we can know we're not guilty. We can know his ordering of the days that we face, whether those dark, scary days or glorious, good days, right? They are ordered by him for a purpose and for our good. And I think I shared this with you right before we got on. It's like, hey, the hope we have is like the brightest day is always ahead. I share that with my wrestlers and our coaches here. Like, no matter what today is, you won the national title or you just got put out of the wrestlebacks and you're never going to be an All-American. No matter the day, our best days are ahead, because those have been secured by the resurrection of Jesus, the first fruit and promise to all who believe, that even if cancer, in your case, we thank God, right? Remission, and been with us a long time, 27 years old and still kicking. Your life is a gift, but even if the life was shortened by that disease, the final disease of sin, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. That the resurrection is our hope and future. We won't live in a dystopia, terrible world like all the sci-fi movies I love have. We will live forever in a kingdom of light and love and fullness of our healed bodies. And that's all of grace, right? It isn't because we hit 424 or we won a state title, or in my case, my wrestling career was just littered with these weird, almost, beat really good guys, and then never really got my shot because of all kinds of injuries and skin infections and stuff that doesn't make sense. But for me, all makes sense in the hand of providence. Of the Lord, who leads everything and cares that you ended up in Greensboro and then you ended up in Chapel Hill, and we all, by God's grace, end up here today. And so really, from our family, Mike, from everyone that's in our circles, you truly changed my life in so many ways, that we're grateful for the human instrumentality, not to us, O Lord, but to you be all glory. But man, thanks. If you haven't heard it enough over the years, you are a special person, and you've done wonderful work in the lives of real human beings that matter to Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Reid. That touches my heart in more ways and a little tear in my eye. Thank you. I love you, who you are, and sweet Casey and your kids. And I mean, it's humbling to hear that too, because as you know, we're broken people.
Yeah.
Just trying to point other people in our frailty to someone greater, and all our mixed emotions and mixed motives.
Yeah.
But really, thank you, Reid, and thank to the grace of God.
Amen. Well, as I once heard and learned from my friend Mike Echstenkamper, we're just one beggar who's found bread and want to try to show somewhere else where we got it. And so thank you, Mike, for sharing that bread, the bread of life, Jesus himself, with me, with others. Thankful that for your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, that we get to persevere to the end. Let's finish well. Let's love our families. You teach me how to be a granddad someday. I appreciate you, Mike. The Gospel Underground podcast is produced in partnership with the Bonhoeffer House. We do take reviews on iTunes. 5 stars only are acceptable. Send your comments, feedbacks, and if you got a 4-star review, let us have it. No 1 stars, though. We don't like that. Send your comments, feedback, questions that you might want us to take up here on the Underground to info@gospelunderground.org. We are dialogue taking place in the borderlands between the church and culture. We hope to see you out there. Thanks. Peace. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.